Did you call? Have you done anything? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then how the hell? Sorry, again. I'm like, how do you expect something to change if you don't take action?
Hello, and you're with Aveline Clark on the 6-Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations about what it takes to be 6-star as a 6-star leader in a 6-star business in a 6-star world. So in this conversation, I sat down with Ford Saeks, and my co-host was Remeny Armitage. What an amazing man Ford is. His story is one that you just have to listen to. And I'm sure that when he gets on stage and speaks, he goes into that story in more detail. But what he gave us was the shortened version, which was still mighty, mighty powerful. So powerful that I shared it with my sons and explained, could you just imagine if this is what happened to you at the age of 15? And my sons were impressed, and not much impresses them, especially when it comes to adult conversation. But Ford really kicked this one out of the park, put Remeny in the hot seat, and has delivered a lot of great value for everyone to learn, myself included. A small note of apology. This episode happened when my internet was out and power was intermittent because we'd had the second floods here in Eastern Australia, and I was using mobile data, and it was one of those really tricky situations, but I managed to record it. My audio is not great because I was using mobile data on my mobile, connecting into Zoom. In the end, it didn't matter. Ford did most of the speaking, so it was just a delight to have him on, and I look forward to having him on again. He just delighted me. The sound effects were so cool. So sit back and enjoy the conversation with Ford Saeks.
Hello, Ford. Welcome to the podcast. It is so lovely to finally have you here. It took a while to get together, but here we are. All things in good timing, and I'm just so excited to be able to speak with you today, and along with my co-host Remeny.
Well, I'm glad to have you as a featured guest. So I'm excited about the 6-Star Business Podcast.
It's great to have you here. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. So let's kick this off, and I'd love to get to know you better, Ford, and our audience does as well. So perhaps could you let us know where you are in the world, who you serve, and maybe how you serve them, and also tell us something you like to do when you're not working, something that you enjoy doing in your spare time.
Awesome. All right. So first question, where am I in the world? I'm in Wichita, Kansas, smack dab in the middle of the United States. They call it Mid-Continent City. Who do I serve? I help people find, attract, and keep their customers. So I work with B2B, B2C, and B2B2C, which basically turns into people to people, right? You know, regardless of what moniker you want to put on that. I work with a lot of industries, but Aveline, what I really do are 4 things. I help people get more high value clients. I help them increase the average transaction. I help them get new and repeat sales. And I help them improve the efficiency of their business operations. So I'm known as a business growth accelerator, which again, that's why when you said, what do? I help people find, attract, and keep their customers. So there's your first tip for the listeners and the viewers is, can you articulate, if someone was to ask you what you do, could you articulate it in such a way that would actually create interest and desire in what you do? Okay, so that was the second question. The third question you asked me was, okay, what's something about me that has nothing to do necessarily with where I spend most of my time? As a Hall of Fame keynote speaker, traveling across the globe, speaking to organizations, as well as a CEO of an agency called Prime Concepts, primeconcepts.com. So I'm pretty busy, but when I'm not doing that, I like to ride my gravel bike. I used to be a pro cyclist, semi-pro, I guess I should say, and then also was a speed skater. And so now for recreation, I like to ride my gravel bike, which is just kind of like a mountain bike, but on gravel roads. And there's all kinds of races now, and I compete in those. And then in a couple weeks, depending on when this airs, I am also going to Costa Rica for a trek called the El Camino, where we're going to start at the Pacific Coast and go 175 miles across from ocean to ocean across Costa Rica. So I've been training for that.
Wow. Is that it? So a trek. So we're talking mountains?
Yeah, I mean, it's not Everest or, the Himalayas, but, probably higher than what I'm in shape for. But, it's going to be a challenge, and we'll just see. It's one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. So that's just like our businesses. I'm just going to point in the right direction and keep going.
Oh, that's brilliant. How many days were you expecting it to take you?
It's 16 days. It's the trip. And so it's about 10 to 15 miles per day. It depends how you do the math. On the steeper days, of course, we're shorter distances, and the flat days it's longer distances. But it's a place. It's a chance to just get away and get a fresh perspective. Most of us spend all of our time, with so much to do, and we don't have time. And every time when someone says to me, "Well, I don't have time," Remeny, what I first think about, and Evelyn, is I think, do you not have time, or maybe it's not a priority? Now, I know that's a tough pill for someone to swallow. So for all you listeners, don't give any hate to the 6-Star Business Podcast. If you don't like me, let me know. But they don't know what I'm going to say. But I would just say to you, if you're struggling with your priorities right now, and saying you don't have time, well, who's really in charge? Who's making the decisions for you? It's just like me with weight loss or weight gain. I control the fork. I can't blame anybody else if I burn myself out at working, and by the time I get home, all I want to do is order a pizza and watch Netflix. Like, I know consciously that that's not good, so I'm not going to blame anybody else if I get up the next morning and I don't feel good. So anyway, that's what I'm doing.
That awesome. Is brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask, what's inspired you to do such an amazing trek?
I think it's important, about every 2 years, I pick something that's outside my comfort zone, that's going to challenge me, that forces me to get away. The first time I did this was a few years ago. I went to the Himalayas, and I was part of a group that climbed an unnamed mountain peak, and then we named it after a fallen soldier. So it was a military thing to honor military. So we raised money, and it was sponsored. And so what I found in that trip, which was also about a 3-week trip, is it took me the first week of being disconnected from my email, my cell phone, and my team to really start to think again. And by the 9th or 10th day into the trip, sitting 17,000 feet up in the mountains in Himalayas, 90 miles away from the nearest village, because we were, way away from any civilization, you start to wonder why you're here, and what are you doing, and why are we doing this for, and why are we doing podcasts, and why am I blogging, and why am I, you start to get, and I was like, you know what, I'm not coming back. Okay, so I didn't want to cuss, so I just have a cuss button. So, but it was like, I'm not coming back. And so, of course, I came back, and, but it does help to get away. So that's a long answer, but I like to get away and get a new perspective, and then revisit, and then rethink, reframe, refocus, and reboot.
So important, isn't it? And I'm going to hazard a guess that about 95% of the listeners, and also the people that I know, don't do it. Don't do that.
And I don't think we do it enough. And I don't think you have to take 3 weeks out of your business. You could take a Friday afternoon. I mean, just take a long weekend. Take one day. And if you can't manage to take one day, what happens if we get sick? We all know with going through the pandemic, most of our listeners had it. I mean, I had it. I don't know if you guys got COVID, but I mean, it knocks you out for anywhere from, 2 days to 2 months, right? Where you just can't work. And our bodies, and this has nothing to do with the pandemic or anything, but I'm just saying it's important, I believe, as an action step to take that time to give it to yourself. Now, that might be to spend time with your family or your wife or relationships or whatever it is you want to do. Don't get me wrong. But I think we have to look at what's really important. And I'm not one of those people who says, only focus on your non-urgent and really important things. Put your big rocks in first. Okay, that's good, but that's also sometimes not practical. Sometimes you just have to take care of the issues at hand and get the work done.
I'd love to know, with that kind of ethos, and I think it's brilliant and so true, and I'm so guilty of not achieving enough time for myself. But actually, how would you feel that taking that time, how does that impact your work and help your work and your clients? I'm sure that you bring a lot of amazing knowledge and wisdom off the back of these insights that you must have on these journeys. How does that help you do what you do and make you successful with your clients?
Well, I love the question, and I'm gonna tweak it just a little bit. How does it help me add more value? Because at the end of the day, my question is, how do I add more value? Right? It's not how do I earn more money, how do I make more money? If you're asking the wrong question, then the answer doesn't matter. And the real question, if someone wants to make more money, is how do I solve more problems? How do I add more value? And if you ask those questions, you'll get better answers. So now the second part of that is, I don't just go away just to go away. I go away with the perspective of asking, like, what are the questions I need to be asking? So it's more about the process of the questions than just going away. Like, I wouldn't go away and go, why do I have to worry about cash flow? And why do I have all these employees? And how do I want to be careful and cognizant. So the action step, the takeaway that you're really looking for is the difference between an open mind and a closed mind. And there's been tons of books written about this subject, so this isn't new to a lot of our listeners and viewers, but it is important. And so it's not what you know, it's how well you execute. So some of the things you're going to hear today aren't necessarily revolutionary new insights. Some will be, but sometimes it's a catalyst, and that's why you listen to the 6-Star Business Podcast, right? It's to get reminded of the things that we already know we need to be doing. So it's not about just everything has to be new and fresh and shiny. So when I go away, I want to make sure that I have an open mind. I want to make sure that I journal. I want to make sure that I remove distractions, and I let the universe kind of take care of it. Like, I'm not like all foo-fooey and new age, but I do. Sorry if I just offended half of your listeners. But what I would say is, you just have to give that self to your time, because I think inside we're all connected to a certain inner genius, but there's so much noise going on that sometimes you just have to get away to get rid of the noise. And that's my perspective. So I'll go away with an open mind.
That's so interesting.
How often do you recommend that business owners should do this, Ford?
Well, I'm going to change the question again. So it's not necessarily, so how often should a business owner get away and take perspective? My question to everybody would be, what are your measurements that you're using to measure the success of your business? So some of the questions and for those of you listening, these are not pre-prepared questions. This isn't a canned speech. I'm not reading off some agenda. This is a live, in-person, interactive interview that we're doing live. Okay, with the disclaimer out of the way. Oh, the next part of the disclaimer is, for the purposes of this podcast, this is for informational purposes only. We are not giving you legal advice. Do your own due diligence and contact the necessary professional. Okay, now that I've gotten the disclaimer out of the way, so in case if it's going live on Facebook or something, what I would say is this. The real question is, it's not so how often you should do it, but it's how do you measure success? What are your success metrics? What are you using to measure your success? Is it number of clients? Is it profit margin? Is it whatever it is? But you should have at least a monthly financial meeting where you look at your key performance indicators, your KPIs, and you ask yourself, am I on track or am I off track? Most businesses, and I work with businesses of all sizes. I have clients that make way more money than I do, right? I mean, I've got billionaire clients and things. And it never fails. If I start asking them about their business, people are skilled in one of three areas: delivering the product or service, which I'm sure as all of our listeners, you're a practitioner, you deliver, you sell something of value, right? Number two, they know how to market and sell that, whatever it is, service or product. And number three, they know how to manage. Never is a business owner good at all three. It just doesn't happen. They're good at, they might have skill in all three, but they're really good in two. And usually it's delivering the product or service, or maybe it's managing team leaders. Because I've got clients that are great managers and leaders, but they're not savvy salespeople. Then I've got people who are really good in the sales department. that have an operational nightmare on their hands because they don't know how to manage and lead and communicate and solve those other problems. So it's leadership and management, communication, and then delivering the product or service. Now, back to the original question, how do you measure success? I think it's different for everybody. Do you have a vision and a mission for your company and your organization? Are you growing? How are you measuring success? Is it impact on the world? Is it by the amount you donate? Is it by the lives you touch? Is it by the profit margin? I'm not here to tell you what it should be, but you should definitely have some goals, short-term and long-term. I realize that's not real revolutionary. No, that's obvious. But, you should have some goals, and then you should have some baby steps. And this is a really key point that I want to bring up on this point, and I'll go back to the next question, which is, you want to have goals and you want to think big. All right? You want to think big, but you still have to break it down into baby steps. So, for example, this trip to Costa Rica, it's a big deal. I'm taking 3 weeks out of my business. My payroll is 26 grand every 2 months, or every 2 weeks, excuse me. I wish it was 2 months. So that's 50 grand a month that I've got to come up with and cover just to break even. Like, that's not even profit. That doesn't even cover operating expenses and all the other stuff I have, right? So, there's a lot of economic expenses that I've got to look at to take 3 weeks off of a business. So the point is, I had this big goal. Well, then you also have to break it down into baby steps. So I planned on going back in January. So it's only been, 3 months. It's 90 days. That's hardly enough to train. But then you have to break it down to, okay, a 10-minute walk on a treadmill is better than the 10-minute walk I don't take. A blog is better than writing a book. So maybe you don't have time to sit down and write a book, and you've got a book in you and you keep on saying you're going to write a book, you're going to write a book. Well, maybe write a chapter, maybe do a blog post, maybe do a tweet. If you can't do the blog, can you write 160 characters? Can you start small and get complicated later? And so, I'm throwing a lot out there because I like to action pack the interviews that I do, but to just recap for the next question, have a vision where you want to go. You need to think big, but you also need to think small. You need to have metrics to measure along the way so you can at least have some sense of celebration to say, okay, I'm on track or I'm off track. And if I'm off track, at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own results. How do we get back on track?
And what's your biggest tip for getting back on track?
Creating systems. There's a popular video, you can Google it, on the difference between a visionary and an integrator. Now, that came from Gino Wickman's book, The Entrepreneur Operating System. I'm not a reseller for that. I'm not a certified consultant for that. I'm not pitching that. The book's a good book. I mean, you get some good things from it. But in it, there's a key distinction that I've always taken away, which is if you're the visionary, then your execution is probably pretty low. And you need both people in your organization. So in order to stay on track and move towards your goals, you need to take an assessment of where your strengths and weaknesses and hire your weaknesses. And if you don't earn enough to hire your weaknesses, then how much do you need to sell to make so that you can hire your weaknesses and grow? Otherwise, you're stuck in a rut of self-fulfilling prophecy because you don't have the help you need, because you can't execute because you're not selling. And so it's just this vicious cycle. So it's important, if you're not where you are, to first step back and take personal accountability for wherever you are. It's not the government. And again, I know you've got listeners all over the world. So please, everybody, don't send hate mail. We know there's political things going on, and no, I'm serious. That's not the point. The point is control what you can control. We can't control the government, the regulations, the disruption, the wars, the political. We can't control those things. So I would say focus on what you can control, which is your attitude and your action. And sometimes you have to have course corrections. I had course corrections today with one of my staff members. We had a fumble this morning at 9:00 and it led to some other stuff. And now I feel it's back on track, but time will tell. But be responsible at the end of the day. Just move away. If you're someone who blames everybody else for your circumstances and you're a victim, maybe it's time to see who's always at the scene of the crime.
Very wise. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I know that a lot of our listeners fall into that category or that trap of being the visionary and the executor and thinking that they can do it all. Ford, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey and perhaps what has been a pivotal kind of moment for you in your journey that's brought you to where you are today. Because as I'm listening to you, there's so much wisdom and obviously a lot of experience that you've had to get to this place. And I respect that. And I would love to hear a little bit about what's helped shape you to be here now.
Well, thank you. So the question, and I always repeat it because I'm used to being on stage and repeating the question for the audience. So everybody could already hear the question, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. So, what's the journey? What got me to this place? And the shortest answer will take a minute or two, but I'll just give you the narrative, which is, I started as an orphan in the projects of North Minneapolis, Minnesota, on government housing for $17 a month, running around on the streets, carrying a gun, didn't hurt anybody or anything. I was just a punk. I didn't do anything bad, but I was misguided. And at 15 years old, I found myself in a jail cell, 6 foot by 8 foot, almost getting ready to be tried as an adult for grand theft auto, which the one thing I didn't actually do was arrested on. And I was thinking to myself, maybe I haven't made the best life choices, and one of the guards gave me a cassette program by Napoleon Hill called The Strangest Secret. Now, for you millennials out there, you can Google what a cassette program, it used to be this thing that you would play and sound would come out of headphones. Okay, so I had a Sony Walkman and I played this cassette over and over again. And it was positive programming. And it was the first time in my life that I'd actually heard that your past doesn't define your future. No, that was not just Tony Robbins. That was years ago. And that you don't have to become a victim, that you could be in control. So it was programming. It was new information. And so when I got released, the next week I sat down. I thought to myself, I'm going to figure out a way to earn money other than how everybody in my neighborhood was earning money, which is a whole different story. And so I decided what I would do is I'd start a painting company, because when I was in the detention center in jail, every time I would drop an F-bomb, they would make me paint. So I became a pretty good little painter. So I went to my friends in shop class and I said, I was in ninth grade. I said, I just started this business. Will you help me make some flyers? They made some flyers that said Saeks Painting and Light Construction. I handed them out all over car windshields and grocery store bulletin boards. And finally, someone called me up and said, hey, I'd like you to come out and quote the job. So the short story of this, and this is a signature story I tell during a keynote, so I'm not trying to use that whole time right now. But the story goes that I started that first business, and that first year in business, I generated $35,000 in top line sales, which is in today's equivalence about $300,000. So that's pretty good for a kid from the projects, 15 years old, starts his own business. So that first business launched my entrepreneurial career. Since that time, I've invented products. I own patents. I built up a sporting goods company to $50 million in sales and 140 employees and sold it. So I had a manufacturing company. I did oak, aluminum, and plastics. I had medical products, sporting goods products, and childcare products. So I started as a product guy, selling products through retail, wholesale, manufacturer direct, OEM, manufacturing, different distribution channels, importing, exporting, you name it, chain stores, specialty magalogs, everything. Well, that experience of building all that up and having that success, people started to come to me, Aveline, and say, well, how did you do that? How did you take an idea from your head, from a napkin, and create it into $1 million business or multi-million-dollar business? Well, that led to the coaching and consulting, and then that led, hey, can you come speak to our group? And then that led to the speaking career, which I've now had for 25 years. And now I speak and train all over the world on business growth acceleration. How do you accelerate your mindset, your strategies, and your tactics? So I have a system called the Accelerated Growth System, and that was developed through the journey of having multiple companies, writing books, and working with literally hundreds of thousands of people and hundreds of clients. Because you all know, as a podcast host, if you're interviewing, you're learning, right? I mean, yes, you're doing this podcast for your listeners and viewers, but you're still learning, right? You're still interviewing all these experts. And then, well, that's the same thing as a speaker. When you go to speak at all these different groups and you're a consultant or a featured guest, you get to learn about other models. So fast forward to today, that's why I speak and train and consult and coach through ProfitRichResults.com. And then I have the agency, which again, let's back this up from a business point of view, since this is a business podcast. I speak, I get paid to speak. The people in the audience become clients, right? And then the client who hired me becomes a client. So not all of them, I mean, but I'm just saying that, and so someone might ask, well, why are you listening today? Maybe there's a listener out there, and I'm sure there's a listener out there that has had more success than me, that might be listening right now and saying, well, I have a story to tell, I have a narrative to tell. Well, then fine, reach out to Six Star Business Podcast and solicit to be a guest, and then they'll interview you. Then you'll be on the show and you can do it. Hypothetically, I'm not guaranteed that you can be, because I'm not responsible for that, but I'm just telling you that why would I do a podcast? Well, several reasons. I like giving back. I love entrepreneurs. I like reaching an international audience, and this is a way, and this is your next action step, everybody. Everybody in business needs to build your reputational equity. Fancy way of saying content marketing, right? Think about it. Reputational equity. When they post this podcast and they post a video, or they take snippets of it and they send it out to their email list, well, you're promoting me now to a whole bunch of people that didn't know who I was 10 minutes before we started this feature, right? So it's building reputational equity. So if you're listening to this, the action step isn't to just call Six Star Business Podcast. That's not it. It's what is the podcast that you should be on? What are the lists of podcasts? Have you gone to Google and looked at podcast directories and looked at where are the shows that I should be featured in? And what I would recommend, don't go after the biggest show. Make sure you build up your equity enough, because just like me being on your show, you can Google who I am and you can say, okay, he's run, 7-figure businesses. He's an entrepreneur. He's done he's a Hall of Fame keynote speaker. Okay, that's a good guest. But you don't want to bring somebody on who doesn't have any experience, who can't answer questions related to business, because that's why we didn't do a prepared list of questions. I'm like, just ask me a question and I'll make sure I give you not super long answers, but enough answers. All right, so I'll stop with that and turn it back over to you for the next question.
Fantastic. Have you got one? I've got one. I'm ready, but after you.
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking. I love what you're saying, and I think one of the things when you first started, you were saying you find, keep, and attract customers, and it's all about the people. And I'd love to hear more about what that means and how the people for you are the kind of I'm assuming is the kind of the key to that. And I'm interested to hear more about what your journey is around that and how you help people with their customers.
Okay. So question for you. Are you open for a mini hot seat, Remeny?
Of course.
Okay. So do you have a business other than hosting this? I mean, I don't know you enough to know that. So what do you do to generate revenue now? Did you work full time, or do you have a business on the side? Like, what do you do?
Well, funnily enough, I help businesses to improve by interviewing their customers and clients to help them grow and improve they're doing.
Okay, so that's a service you offer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are you at capacity right now, or could you take new customers on?
I could take new customers on.
Okay, so we're doing this as a mini hot seat for the listeners and viewers. This is not a prepared thing. So let's go back to square number one. If you were a client of mine, the first thing I would do is I would make sure I understood the capacity for growth. Because what you don't want to do is generate a whole bunch of leads that you can't follow up with. And none of us want more clients. We want higher value clients. So it's not just find, attract, and keep your customers or clients. It's how do we find keystone clients or clients that are giving you more referrals or long-time value, right? So we all want those better value clients. Not the PITA clients. I don't know if you know what PITA is, but it's a pain in the
Yes.
Okay, so it's a PETA client. Okay, so let's go talk to you. So one of the things you do is you go in and you help business owners to underfind. Say it again in your words. So you say your value proposition again.
So I help businesses to improve and grow by speaking to and listening to their clients. I interview people's clients to find out how they can improve.
Okay, got it. So in a sense, you're doing mystery shopping, or you're doing like net promoter score. You're trying to figure out on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely is it that they would do business. You're interviewing your clients to see where are their gaps in their customer journey. Where are the gaps that they could improve? Okay, totally get the business model. Okay, so then the second thing I would ask, so now that I want to understand that, then the second thing I want to understand is what's the value proposition that you would ask that client before they become a client, like a prospect. So let's break this down. If you're taking notes at home, there's 3 words to write down: message, market, and method. Your message is the value proposition. Why should someone spend money with you? So in your case, the benefit. What's the benefit of a client hiring you to interview their customers?
Because you can truly understand what your clients think about you.
Okay, and so now we're going to dig deeper. So we know that it's message, and we're going to use the magic words, which means. So if I hired you, and if you interviewed all my clients, I would understand how to serve them client, which means what? So let's go to the next level. What's that mean? If I hired you and spent money with you, ultimately, what am I trying to do?
You're trying to build better business and better relationships so that you have more loyal and clients who refer you, continue to work with you.
And if I have more clients that are referrals and continue to refer me, what does that get me for my business?
More money.
Got it. So really what you do is you help accelerate the growth of the organizations you work with. So this is the key distinction. The reason someone should spend money with Remeny is because they're going to increase their top line revenue, or they're going to increase their profit margin.
Yeah.
I'm going all the way to the little bitty piece, right? Okay. Now from there we can work backwards. Okay, so ultimately that's the benefit. The features are how you do that. You do that by mapping out the customer journey, by doing interviews, by doing assessments, by doing mystery shopping, or whatever else you do on your list of services. But the services are not why they're hiring you. So there's an old story of if I said, Aveline, would you do me a favor? No, I know where you are in the world, but I don't know. There's probably a home builder's store in your world, right? Home Depot or something, right? What is the store where you live? What is it called?
It's called Bunnings.
Bunnings. Okay. So if I said, go to Bunnings and get me a 1/2-inch drill bit, do I want to think about this? Am I buying the 1/2-inch drill bit? Why does someone buy a 1/2-inch drill bit? What's the result that they want?
They want to drill a hole in something.
Right. They want the hole. So really what they're buying is the hole. They're buying the hole. They want a 1/2-inch hole. They don't want the drill bit. The drill bit is a means to the end. Same thing with Remeny. They don't need to interview their customers to find out the gaps in their journey. What they need is to figure out a way to gain a competitive edge and have a surefire leg over the competition, to be recession proof. Like, you need to think of the language. So the first part of that system was the message. What's the message? Well, the message is, I'm going to help you solve these problems. Okay, now let's go to the second piece of the formula. So the message is the why. Then you have the who. So what type of clients, Remeny, do you work with? Do they have 30 employees or 3,000 employees? Like, what's a sweet spot for you? What's an ideal client profile? What's an ideal sweet spot that says, this is the type of people that I really work with?
Most of my clients are in a particular sector. I tend to work mostly within the agency space. And I tend to, most of the agencies I work with are sort of 10 to 100 people.
Perfect. So because you work in a certain sector, which is great, you're focused enough to know what their hot spots are and what their language is, so that you can speak their language, so that when they hear you speak, they know you understand their problem. So that's the second piece. So you have your message and you have your market. And then the third component of this system, which was the original question, was, okay, what's the system? What's the formula? How do you do this? Is how are you going to send that message to the market? So just talking hypothetically, we're not, don't reveal anything you don't want people to know. But hypothetically, now that I know what you do and I know who you're trying to reach, how do you get in front of your prospects? How do prospects find out about Remeny?
Well, as you were saying, it's getting out there in front of people and thinking about where your potential clients are and trying to think and get in front of them in a direct way. And so whether that's podcasts or talks or chapters in books or, posts on LinkedIn.
Okay. So the third way then is once you have the value proposition and the message and you know who the ideal client is, then you have to do your research and figure out, is traditional marketing or digital marketing going to work best? Obviously, referrals are a given. You obviously want to nurture the current clients. But if you're going to get cold clients, then you have to ask yourself, what does my value ladder look like? When people do business with me, do they come in, listen to me to a podcast? Do I do a lunch and learn? Did they see me speak? Did they read an article? Was I on the news? Did I send them a book? Did I prospect them? Did I send them a video mailer? There's thousands of methods to get the message to the market. But just like you, because you're an expert at understanding the value journey and the places that they're missing, what I would say is the next client is you. That you use yourself as a client and you map out your own customer journey and you look for the opportunities in your own process using your own methodologies to look back at your journey and say, wow, I'm not really nurturing my clients for referrals, or wow, I should be speaking at these 3 associations, and those associations all have webinars that they do every month, and they have a newsletter that they send out, and they have blah, 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 and then you reach out to them. So prospecting is a key part of it. But for all of you listening, it's always about what's lifestyle friendly, right? You don't have to do everything. You just have to do the right things consistently. It's just like me, probably one of the biggest changes for me that keeps me motivated to work out is I don't have to be motivated to work out. I just have to be consistent. And so whenever I get home and I don't feel like it and I'm like, I worked all day. I was on 3 podcasts. I'm done. And I think, okay, I'm just going to lay on the couch. I know I have sound effects. For those of you listening, they're like, where the hell are those things coming from?
So good.
I'm just used to doing it. It just happens without me even thinking about it. But I would say, am I being consistent? And then I say to myself, a 10-minute walk is better than an hour that I didn't do. So a lot of times I want to use an excuse. Oh, I'll start tomorrow. Or, we tell ourselves these stories when they get in our way. So just a little bit of recap. The formula is message, market, method. And it's when you get the combination right. So if you have enough business, it's because you got that combination figured out. If those of you are trying to grow whatever business you are, however successful you are, whatever division or listener you have, if you want to grow that level of business, you need to step back, look at your website, look at your digital footprint, which is your website, your search engine rankings, look at your business review websites like Google, look at business directory websites if you're a member of EO or YPO or Vistage or some other chamber or business group. What does your business directory listing look like? What shows up when someone Googles your name or your company's name? Most people don't even take the time to really think about what is the perspective that it looks like. So for those of you, wanting to find out about me, just go to Google and spell it right, Ford, F-O-R-D, S-A-E-K-S, so Saeks like for heaven's sakes, S-A-E-K-S, 5 letters. You'll know more about me than you ever wanted. I've got 100 views on me as a person. I've got over 100 views as an agency. I'm all over the web. Am I know-it-all? No. And probably, one of the last takeaways I'll share before there's other questions is, look, you don't have to be better than everybody else. You just have to be 10% better. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be a little bit better than your competition. And the scariest people to me are the people who think they know everything, but they don't know what they don't know. So a little disclaimer here for those of you that have stuck in listening to this whole, interview so far. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. And I'm not saying that I know and I'll have all the answers. All I'm saying is each day I get up, it gives us a new opportunity to add value. And so it doesn't matter what happened yesterday or 10 minutes ago or an hour ago. You can step back and you can say, how do I begin again? How can I course correct? Take responsibility if you step in it, and then just move forward. Anyway, hopefully that little hot seat helped you,
Yeah,
Remeny.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Thank you.
She's probably typing right now, why did you have this guest on here? She's looking for the mute button.
Not at all, no. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's right. You know what I think is going to happen is she's going to go and look on eBay or somewhere else to try and find the same kind of like vocal sound effect board that you've got. And actually, I think many people are. It's awesome. I've never had that experience before in a podcast board, and I'm sure that the others that you go on said the same thing. So just want to thank you. That was truly awesome. Random.
Well,
See, this is unscripted.
Yeah, it's very.
I love the journey we go on.
Well, and that's the key. I want to be memorable, right? And that's what everybody should do. You didn't know me before today. We just got this scheduled and we got on here. So it's how can I add value? How can I stand out? How can I help a listener? Because there'll be a listener that'll say, oh, I'm going to Google him. I'm going to connect with him on LinkedIn. And I would encourage it for all of you that want to connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Say, hey, I was listening to the 6-Star Business podcast, whatever, and just connect with me on LinkedIn or go to social media. I'm not very active on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. Yeah, I'm on all these platforms, but I'm not saying I don't have a big presence on a lot of them. I spend most of my time on YouTube and LinkedIn because that's where my core clients are. I'd rather have a few really top clients than just millions of clients. I don't have millions of followers. There are people that have a bigger social media footprint than I have, but mine's plenty sufficient for the market I have. And I guess that's probably, if there's one more tip, and I know we're probably wrapping up soon, I would just say, don't compare yourself to anybody else. Compare yourself to so you know what the potential is. But there's always going to be someone who's bigger, faster, prettier, smarter. Like you can go crazy, especially with social media right now, trying to keep up with the next person. Let it go. Just do you. Do the best you can. Add value. There's plenty of business out there for everybody. Be authentic. Stick to your guns, and just ask better questions. How do I add more value? And you'll find. I've had people who say, "Well, I'm having trouble building my business," and I'll say, "Have you written a blog? Have you done a YouTube video? Have you done a podcast? Did you call the media? Did you send out a media release? Did you send out a newsletter? Did you send out an email? Like." Did you call? Have you done anything? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then how the hell? Sorry, again. I'm like, how do you expect something to change if you don't take action?
Boom. Yeah. Exactly. You've given our audience so much, jam-packed. You've made a definitely an impact in my view so far in our conversation today. I'm wondering if you could share a perspective on what 6-Star means to you.
Sure. So what does 6-Star mean to me? Well, what I think it echoes is what I said earlier, is that you don't have to be perfect. It's not 10-star, but everybody always thinks about 5-star, right? On Google, there's 5 stars, 5-star customer service, 5-star leadership. So what I think, Evelyn, is that you've done that 10% better. You said, you know what? Everybody talks about 5-star. I'm going to do 6-star. So what I think about that is it's unique, it's innovative, it's memorable, and it's a way to position yourself in an oversaturated market of everybody doing podcasts to say, look, how do we stand out from the competition? How are we remarkable and memorable? So even of the lot of podcast interviews that I do, this will be memorable because I'm like, oh yeah, the 6-star. It reminds me of, I don't remember what the movie was, and somebody will put it in the comments on some social media where, it's 8-minute abs, and the guy says, well, I'm going to do 7-minute abs. Like it's some comedy. I can't remember what it was, but it's like, or 6-minute abs or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like, but I just think it's interesting that, how do you go above and beyond? Now, I could be totally wrong. You might say, well, Ford, did you read in the bio notes that we have 5 stars and each star is a certain, I don't know. I'm going to say, I don't know. But, if you said, well, number 1 is leadership, number 2 is communication, number 3, and then number 6 is, I might screw that whole thing up. But if you asked me just plainly, I'd say it's about being different and standing out from the competition. That's
Beautiful.
what we call a long road to a tiny house. I answered that way longer than I should have.
And your answer is spot on. It's bang. There's no formula. There's no, A, B, C equals D to this. And I love that you didn't go and research it first, because I always want to ask our guests to feel into it and think into it. They've obviously had some time to think before they come on the show. But what you said is absolutely perfect. And it echoes a lot of the themes that we've had on all of the podcast episodes. We've been going for a year. We hit our first birthday this week, and that's 60. I think we've had 62 episodes and published. And the themes that have come out are very much around the individual. Being a 6-star leader in a business is about someone who actually takes responsibility, operates with love, care, and then there's the other side, which is the innovation. And so we've had all these conversations on all different topics, but it all just sits around what you just said. So if someone was to take that about being better and different and standing out, if you think about how that applies to you personally and in your business, it's exactly what it means. And everybody has a different business and will take on what they need from that in their own way.
No, absolutely. And, people always ask, what's an action step that they can take? I was just going to see if I have a lower third on it. So I have an offer. If you guys want to send it to your group, you can put it in the show notes. But if someone goes to talk with Ford for a limited time, as schedule permits, I'll give them a digital footprint critique. So if they want a hot seat, kind of like I did with Remeny, if they want a hot seat, you can just go to Talk with Ford. It is a calendar link. I'm not going to solicit you. I don't have time, so don't worry about that. But if you want a digital footprint critique, that means you're in business now, but you're looking for a couple insights on how you can leverage it. There's no obligation. There's nothing to buy, or I'm not going to put you on an autoresponder list. But I always like to have some way of doing that. And so the last action step for everybody would be, if you're going to be a guest on a podcast, yes, you should always deliver great value. But if you've delivered great value, which I think I did, then don't be ashamed to offer a way for the people to continue the journey, whether that be to visit your website or to download something or to, visit something. So really what I'm doing, because you're a business podcast, I'm using that as an example to say, if you want your digital footprint. Now, if this was a podcast on leadership, I probably wouldn't do that because it wouldn't have been relevant. But certainly for you guys, it's not wrong, and you're doing your audience a disservice if you don't give them a way to continue. So here's a question that I have now for you. What's an action step that you would like your viewers to do as a result of this podcast? Do you want them to go to the iTunes section and leave you a review? Would you like them to like and share this episode? Would you like them to, if they're posting this on social media, to like, comment, and follow? And of course, everybody, I'm telling her exactly what I want you guys to do. But, what's an action step that you want for your listeners and viewers?
Yeah, ditto, all the above.
There you go. Yeah, so we did it.
Nicely said.
Yay!
Yay!
See how magical it is when people come together and share their genius, and how good we feel at the same time. And even though there's 3 of us in this conversation, there's a whole lot of people listening when this goes live. And even though they're not here now, I know that we're going to be impacting their lives. And that's the magic that comes with these conversations. And that's what I love about doing this podcast. It's about the impact it makes, the ripple effect. So
Thank you. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I appreciate being here. It's been great.
Thank you. I just want to honour you, Ford. I'm so grateful for you coming. I typically ask our guests to add something at the end for our listeners, and I feel like you've given us, 1,265 things. So there's probably nothing to leave them with. But I just want to, you've given up a lot of your time, your energy, and thank you. And for our listeners, please go. Yeah, we'll have in the show notes the Ford's links, so you can go and take him up on that digital footprint critique. I think that would be awesome. Everyone should do it. We all need to do that. And Remeny, thank you so much for being my co-host tonight. I know
thank you. And thank you for letting me be in the hot seat as well. That was amazing. And I think it's fascinating. And I think just to say thank you and good luck, Ford, with your amazing trek. Please let us know how it goes. We might need to get you back so we can hear about
when you're ready to get me back, and if you have a guest canceled at the last minute, I know if it's within 9 to 4, 9 to 5 Central Time in the United States, just let me know, and most of the time I can jump on, and that's Beautiful. When I'm available. But I appreciate being here, and like I said, a closing thought would just be, look, it's not what you know. I know everybody here knows what to do. It's how well you execute. So as a result of listening to this, what's one or two things that sparks you to think you're going to go back and revisit, and then take action on those in baby steps?
Yeah,
great
beautiful.
Advice. 6-star advice.
There we go. But for those of you listening, that's her brand. So don't worry, tomorrow my keynote's not going to be 6-star customer service. No, that's your brand. So everybody, you can model, don't steal. Okay.
Yeah.
Great advice. Thank you, Ford. Thank you, Remeny.
All right, ladies. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.